Hello and welcome to the video for Friday, April the 24th for 6th grade. This is going to cover our new lesson continuing what we were working with on finding volume. So today we're going to be working specifically with rectangular prisms, and there are some special things that apply to this that may not always apply to other things. So for instance, if we're looking for the volume, we are always going to want to use the length times width times the height to figure that out. However, there are a couple shortcuts that we can sometimes do. So I'll talk to you about those because those are part of the lesson. So to start with, we have one of my very favorite things in the world. We have a bento box, which I had quite a few of when I was in Hawaii. Hawaii has those as well. And so I would have one of those for breakfast. So it might look like this top one here with rice and then eggs and sometimes spam. Because that's a popular thing in Hawaii. So we want to find what the volume or amount of food that we could fit inside this box. So we can do multiplication to help us figure that out. So um, the length is 5 inches, the width is going to be 4 inches, the height is going to be 2.5 inches. And so when we multiply those numbers together, we would get 20 times 2.5, which would give us 50. And so 50 cubic inches of food would fit in the box. And for this, because I already recorded this once and we had technical difficulties with being able to see this particular part on the screen, that would be a situation where we probably need to make sure that you guys are catching everything that's going on. So the next part, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this is the one where I got a little bit confused. I am not used to doing this part. So what we need to be very careful of when we're looking at this is if we see that we have inches squared out here, then we're talking about the area. If we just see the number and we don't see an arrow pointing into the shape, then they're just giving the length of the side. A rectangular prism is the only time that we can actually find the area of this first and then multiply it times the height and have this work. A triangular prism isn't going to work that way. And in a sense, even working with a cube isn't going to work this way. It kind of will, but it's going to look a little bit different. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So our height is 2.25 inches. The base of this face is going to be 9 inches. So I can multiply those. So when I'm multiplying by a fraction, again, I'm going to have to convert it to an mixed number. I'm going to have to change it to an improper fraction. We would get 81 fourths. If I divide 81 divided by 4, that would give me 20 with a remainder of 1. So that would be 20 1/4 inches cubed. Number 2, so we are going to change all 3 of these to 7 halves. And so 7 halves cubed would be equal to 7 halves times 7 halves times 7 halves. So we are going to have 2, 4, 8 on the bottom, which should be very familiar from when we were finding half-size blocks, the number of those, and then dividing by 8 to find our area. That would give us 343 on the top, and then we did our work here. So we have 42 with a remainder of 7, which means we would have 42 7/8 feet cubed, or cubic feet, for the area. So going on to the share and show, again, we are not going to worry about changing these into half-size units and then dividing by 8 this time. But if we don't do that, we are going to have much larger numbers. So as you see, and one of the reasons that we probably won't try to double all of these is because we'll end up with even more larger numbers. So 12.5 times 15 times 25. So if we use a calculator, where I think I actually ended up doing this somewhere on a page, I forget exactly where I did this. I'll probably find it at some point, but I made mistakes when I was working through different things. So as punishment, I did all of the problems for the homework by hand, including the ones I accidentally originally told you how to do incorrectly because I didn't read very closely. So 3,937.5 was what we were looking for that one. Number three, 8.5 times 6.5 times 12.5. If we change those into improper fractions, we would end up with 17 times 13 times 25 for the top, which gives us 5,225. And then we have 8 on the bottom. When we divide, we would get 690 with a remainder of 5, and that would give us 690 and 5/8. Number 5, 3 1/3 times 6 gives us 20. And again, we have this arrow that shows that we are working with an area here. So 3.5 yards, or sorry, 3 1/3 yards squared times 6 would give us 20 cubic yards. Number 7, I can't remember if I gave you guys this one, but I wanted to talk about this. So unfortunately, it's already circled, but I was going to suggest in the original video that you could probably just take a look at these numbers and without working out the actual answer, figure out which answer makes sense. So first of all, we have two answers that look like they're kind of close together, and then this one is way larger than the other two. And so if we're doing 4 times 2 times 3, we're not going to get anywhere close to 64. So that one you could rule out. If we are doing halves, we would do 8 9/2 times 5/2 times 3, but my bottom number should end up being a 4. So the only one, unless we ended up getting in a situation where we could reduce 2/4 down to 1/2, the only one that might make sense is this one. And so when we actually work through the problem, we would find out that there would be a remainder of 3, because if I do 135 divided by 4, I will have a remainder. So that would give me my 3/4. All right, so for the homework problems, I'm going to try to leave some of the answers off the screen. What I want you to do is make sure for this particular one, we are working with 3 different sections. So we are doing 2.5 times 2.5 and then multiplying that by 6. So sorry, 2.25 times 2.25 times 6. So that would give us what we would be looking for in our answer. So all of the problems should be working with that. Number 1 on the back, I'm not going to pan over to there just yet. Actually, I'll go ahead and put it back on me. Number 1 on the back, you are looking for an estimate. So round before you do it. I told you guys incorrectly the original time that I made the video, and so my punishment was to actually find out the actual answer to that. And so you will see that in the homework video, and you can pause it and take a look at it. It took me about 4 minutes, I think, to hand write out every single step of that problem, because we end up with incredibly large numbers that we're multiplying to get to and then dividing and so forth. So my answer ended up being 4 digits, and then an additional amount after that. So the whole number portion of it was 4 digits. So it took quite a bit of work to get that. So I'll show you that in the next video. Hope you have a great day. I will see you in the next video, or I will see you on Monday.